Next, please.
Anyway, I started blasting.
Welcome to Dues Paid, your premier podcast resource for the perspective of two barely young men who've sampled the platter of earthly delights. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
And what the hell are we doing here, man? I have some things written down as far as like topics I want to talk about. I'm going to read them off to you and you tell me if anything's interesting or if you want to counter, okay?
Okay.
All right. What I've got written down here, number one, blue carousel shits. That's fun.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Let's start with that.
Okay. All right. Let's start with that. So, a couple days ago, I decided, I got paid with some of my unemployment stuff, got it all worked out. And so I decided, all right, well, I'm going to get some vodka, some blue carousel, some lemonade. We're going to do a little bit of bartending. And I also decided to get Thai food, right? And the Thai food, we had like this pumpkin spiced curry kind of thing, like a Japanese squash. It was really good. Well, basically over the past few days is like, I had like some hearty veggie poops and I was like, oh, good. That's the nutrition stuff. And then for the next couple days after, they've turned into like a Lucky Charm green. And for a while, it really scared me until I realized, like, oh no, blue carousel, I've basically been dyeing the inside of myself blue and drinking lemonade. And that was my, like, big scare for the week for me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I can tell one time I ate an entire barrel because they practically come in barrels of red vines. And my shits were red for a while. That scared me.
Yeah, that's bad.
Also, like how we're starting the first episode out with poop. It's always good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most immediate need to be fulfilled. It's universal. Everybody has had some of these problems.
Technically, the most immediate need is eating, because then you poop after eating.
Sure, but this is a PSA that we're starting with.
Okay. A poop service announcement?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, the other ones I got is, let's see, I got my second dose of Moderna and I'm out of it. So that's why we started the list that way.
What's Moderna?
Aliens have been in the news. And I've been looking up and I think I'm going to get the Oculus 2. So that's what I got for you. You got anything?
I have never tried VR. It was always too expensive for me. Because, just like the casual consumer is not going to be able to get VR. In my opinion, if you've got VR, you've sunk a huge investment into it and you are serious about it, or a content creator.
Yeah, it could be one or the other. The first ones, the beta kits, were definitely like super expensive. Now the Oculus 2, it ranges from about $300 to $400. And it's kind of this contained all-in-one system that can it can hook up with your Steam library and everything. So I have like more of a reason because I already have some games like Subnautica and Thumper, where it's like I tried them out. I was like, oh, these are pretty cool. And then I put them down and never again touched them. And so I'm excited to like revisit them in full VR. But the fidelity has gone up, man. Like on the old kits, you could tell that it was like two streaming 240p screens in front of you, basically. No, these new ones, like they got the little built-in front webcam too, so like you can switch to like forward vision and like you see the world in black and white, and you're like, I'm a Terminator as you're walking around and shit. It's awesome.
Like little words pop up, it's just like Sarah Connor, and you're like, oh shit.
That you can bring up your UI. You're like walking around and like basically looking at your house in infrared and like drawing your boundaries and stuff, and like the UI elements pop up. It's kind of the world I want to live in, if I'm being real.
Oh yeah, what was it called? The augmented reality, where the Google glasses would have augmented reality at it, and the commercial for it, if I recall, it was like everything was all set up for it. So like you'd look at a building and it would like give you all the stats on the building and like what's inside of it and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's creepy. Also very futuristic, but very creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they actually still use those in their warehouses because they do it for that exact thing. It's for like inventory management and all that.
Really?
Yeah, no, they like, shipping and stuff like that. It's used internally for logistics and all that. But the reason that it never really went public is because you may have remembered like some of these videos that went by, like during the beta test trials when they were like first going out into the world with these Google Glass things, and people would like walk into bars and like get beat up.
Oh, of course. I mean, they were the dorkiest looking things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, not only are they dorky, but it's like, hey, are you filming me? It's like, yeah, I am, with my eyes. And like drunk people in Jersey don't like that,
Sure. Except for, when you tell them that it's a fucking reality show. And then they're like, hey, what's up, brah?
Yeah. They actually, what's that house?
You mean the house that every reality show has been filmed at?
Yeah, Jersey Shore. They have to repaint that house like every season, otherwise people come and find it.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't understand why, but actually I do. Everybody wants their 5 minutes of fame, right?
Sure. And plus, I mean, there's nothing like uncovering a secret. People love uncovering secrets, even though there's really no reason to do it.
What do you mean?
I mean, everybody just sees things as a challenge. Knowing the unknown, learning the unknown, especially when somebody tells you, hey, don't learn that. And everybody just goes, oh, I have to learn that now. And what's the other... shit. I can't think. Hackers, right? Like hackers
with a Z.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And with letters in there too. Fucking. But they'll do things like just hack banks and shut them down. Not to steal anything, just to fuck with them and be like, haha, yeah, I subverted your security. No real reason behind it, just to do it because they're dicks.
Yeah, I want them to be friends with me.
Well, that's the thing, though. Everybody's talking about like how, or not everybody's talking about, but there have been discussions about how hackers are the worst thing and all these other things. But it's like there were bank robbers and people who blew up buildings for no reason back in the day. Like this is just the modern version of that.
Well, and not only that, but it sounds like, the kind of hackers that would go and just like crash the server for a banking exchange program. I don't know if there's like a specific one that you're thinking of, but like just to crash it and not to be like, give us money now. Like those are gray hat hackers. They just do that for fun. Or they could be white hats where they just do it and they don't necessarily hit the not export. I've been doing too much video editing. They don't execute on the security flaw they find. They just like email it to their tech support, which I mean, why not?
It kind of makes me think of Live Free or Die Hard with Justin Long.
Yeah, okay. Context. I am media illiterate. You know this.
Oh, Live Free or Die Hard is like the 4th or 14th Die Hard movie, and
oh yeah, it's the fourth. Okay, it's the 4th one. I saw that in theaters.
Yeah,
where they had no idea what was going on.
Right. Well, it's like the hacker dude who was trying to tell the government that their security was flawed or some such nonsense, and so they disregarded him, and he took a laptop, just a laptop, and shut down NORAD. And so they didn't like that, and they crucified him and kicked him out and ruined his life and stuff like that. So he came back and basically proved, hey, if I really wanted to, here's how I'm going to shut down your country.
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of the point of the movie is John fighting against that.
It's the "Would you like to play a game" one, isn't it?
Yeah, was that War Games?
That's War Games. Yeah, that's it.
What is this that you've sent me?
Oh, I sent you like it's just an 11-second clip of like a person wearing Google glasses who went into a bar in New York.
It's a video now. Okay.
Wow. Yep,
Yeah. Oh, and it's Hate Street, so that's San Francisco. But like, yeah, nobody was okay with those things.
Hate Street. I understand that it's spelled Haight, but living on Hate Street, it's like I just hate everything.
Yeah, actually, Haight and Ashbury in San Francisco is like the very epicenter of gay culture in San Francisco. Oh. Yeah, I mean, the more you know, right? That's also, you go 2 blocks in any direction from there, though, and you'll find somebody pooping on a sidewalk. So,
well, okay, yeah,
it's just part of living in a gentrified area.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also because, you know, California and living out there and stuff like that, it's like constant good weather, so it's going to be like primo real estate for bums, because
for sure,
if they have to live in bad weather, it's kind of a problem because they have no house.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they try to live in the Minnesota winter, they die, you know.
Sure.
That's why they tend to get shipped out here too by bus. But you know, it is what it is. I mean, if we're on like the homelessness subject, like, you know, the thing that works, that's been proven to work, give them homes. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. It can be like a one-room trailer with a bedroom and a bathroom, and they'll turn things around from there. But that's me getting on my preachy stuff.
No, preach. And I agree. I mean, that's the whole thing. If people are, I mean, the reason why people are on the streets and why they can't hold employment is because employment is very tied to having a phone number, having an address, and stuff like that. Like, you can't even
having a car if you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even if you can't prove that you can reliably get to work, which is transportation, people won't hire you. If you don't have a permanent address within the state, they won't hire you. You can't get an apartment if you don't have work in the area, which means that it's all just a collapsing, it all just collapsed in on itself. Like, once one thing goes, the other legs can't stand, you know?
Yeah.
Because once one thing goes away, the other stuff starts to slowly go. Like, if you lose your car, right? You're going to start, which is usually the first payment that you stop making when you begin to lose money. You stop paying for your car, or you stop paying for insurance or something like that. If your car gets impounded, you can't reliably get to work. If your work finds out, or you end up being late and you get fired, now you don't have a job. Now you can't pay for everything else because everything is tied to everything. You don't have insurance anymore because, of course, we live in a world where insurance is tied to goddamn employment, which is the dumbest fucking thing in the world. And then you eventually lose your house. And since you don't have a house and a car, you can't afford, you're going to lose your phone, so you don't have any way to communicate with anybody, and it just trickles down from there. It's a situation where once you get behind, every system that you are working in fights to put you more behind.
Absolutely. And not only that, but this is I'm just looking at an article because I was thinking about it as you were talking here. It costs more, like, for municipal governments to not help homeless people, right? It costs more in legal fees, in police, in police hours, processing, emergency room visits that usually, a fake name is given, they're never reimbursed. That goes back onto the county and your tax dollar, right? There's where is this company? Not a company. All right, we'll cut this silence.
The other thing, I mean, what I'm assuming, the whole divergence between solving the problem and maintaining the problem, which is, the paying for police, paying for legal fees, paying for whatever, and all those things, versus paying to erect a very cheap, affordable home that is essentially owned by either a bank or the state. the difference between those two things is something that plagues all of capitalism, which is the simple fact that if it costs $1,000 to fix right now, or $100 to maintain it in its shitty state, almost everybody that has quarterly expenses to worry about is going to go, okay, I'm just going to spend the $100 because that will give me $900 more this month. Not realizing, of course, that it's going to be $100, then $100, then $200, then $200, then $300, then $300, and eventually they're going to have to spend the $1,000 anyway. And in some instances, like for example, I'm a truck driver. When a truck part begins to fail, they just maintain that failing truck part, except for when truck parts begin to fail, they start to make other parts fail because it's a system that you're working with. So now we're at the point where we're spending $400 a month to maintain it. And this is just an example. You're at the point where you're spending $400 to maintain it, and you're like, okay, let's replace it. You get in there, and that $1,000 deal is now a $5,000 deal because you have to replace 5 different things because that one thing ruined all those other parts.
Right. And bringing it back to the homelessness thing here. So the study that I'm looking at here is showing that the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness, they had a study that indicated that the region was spending about triple on policing homeless people's nonviolent rule breaking, as it would be to get each homeless person a house and a caseworker. That's rent and a government employee, and it's costing us triple just to have police out there harassing people, genuinely. And I mean, like, yeah, okay, there's there's the thin blue line protecting us from chaos, but genuinely,
no, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a case to be made for police existing, but not in this form, right? They should about a good portion of their budget should be spent what they use on people. They should take that away and just get that money and put it into getting homeless people a house and a caseworker, right? And it saves you money. There's studies from Charlotte and southeastern Colorado that have taken this approach. It shows cost savings, focusing simply on housing the homeless. So that's what I got. That's what I was reading over. But it does seem like it seems like we focus more on retribution than rehabilitation, and I do think that's
absolutely.
Yeah, and
this country is all about justice and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and if you can't keep the pace, then you're going to get left behind. Never mind the fact that every politician has ever run in anything always says the exact opposite, even though we all know that it's true that this country leaves people behind. Like I said, the systems are designed to, if you fall behind, they're not designed to help you get back up. They're designed to push you down further and make room for other people who are better for society, even though it's not actually about that. And then once you're all the way down, what are you going to do? What exactly is your method of getting back into society? Well, get a job, you bum. Oh, well, do please direct me. This was the idea behind Obama phone, Obama car, and Obama house, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you give someone that's homeless or impoverished paid house, paid car, paid phone, they can have a job 100%.
Right.
The problem, and this is the other thing, there is no, and I fell into this trap too, back when I was younger, there is no evidence that states that anyone systemically abused that program. Yet, it was a constant conservative talking point. Conservative? Which one means Republican?
Yeah, you're thinking conservative. Yeah.
Okay,
typically.
cool. Okay.
Conservatives, no, you're good. Yeah, conservatives typically are against the idea of government intervention, such as paying people.
Despite the fact that they want the government to intervene on everything that doesn't involve them.
Well, I mean, like, also lack of government intervention as far as like taxing people that can afford lawyers to make sure they don't get taxed. You know how it goes.
Yeah, fuck that shit. But
Yeah.
right, so there is no evidence that supports the idea that it was en masse being abused, that people were getting free housing, free car, free phone, all that stuff. First of all, they weren't good cars or phones or houses. They were affordable, like low rent stuff that just wasn't being rented. So they were just like, okay, well, we're going to take this cheap housing that nobody wants and let people move in so that they can live and have a house. There is no evidence that states that no study. In fact, most studies said the opposite. There would have been like maybe like 2% or like 2 to 5% people that actually abused the system. For 90 to 95% of people that use that system, it helped them immensely because they actually went and got jobs. The idea behind the system is solid. However, conservative pushback and all the fear mongering about it ended up, is it still a thing? I'm actually not certain if those policies are still in place. I highly doubt it when Trump was president.
Yeah, no, it looks like he rolled them back in 2018.
Of course he did.
Yeah,
what
and
fucking
the
waste
program,
of time.
The guy had some traits of his own, and those included self-enrichment and self-aggrandizement, but it seemed like everything else was about spite.
Yeah.
By the way, that program was called the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act. Seeks to combat housing discrimination, eliminate racial bias, undo historic patterns of segregation, lift barriers that restrict access in order to foster inclusive communities and achieve racial equity, fair housing choice and opportunity for Californians, etc. So that's apparently the California one, but it's a national program that, if it follows anything like how Obama did it, it's that he put out a mandate and then left it to states to fulfill one by one. I'm just here in California, which is why I got the California answer there.
Well, I'm in Ohio and I don't have the Ohio answer, mostly because every time that I look up policies that affect Ohio or come from Ohio, it being the reddest state ever, that's probably not true, but it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to me. Like, I felt embarrassed. Like, I was watching the election with Baba, one of my Twitch friends. He was streaming it, and so I was in his chat, and when Ohio was blue, I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God my parents' voice got fucking silenced. And then it turned red, and it just got redder and redder and redder. And I was like, no. And he was like, TGC, what are you doing, man? Come on, get out there and correct these people. And I was like, I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't understand. Every time that I Google fiscal policy, corn comes out of my computer. There's nothing we can do.
Actually, there's more factories than anything in Ohio. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, especially like Toledo is such a hub city. I mean, our highway system is literally a big circle around town. It's just a hub town.
Okay.
There's factories everywhere. There's warehouses everywhere, and the highway is basically the highway is a big circle, and it's connected to the turnpike, and it goes all the way up into Detroit with 3 lanes. So yeah, it's a big hub town, but fuck, it just sucks here.
Damn, that is the 3rd helicopter going over my house. Did you hear that one?
I did not.
Good. All right, that's fine.
Excellent noise suppression.
Yeah, absolutely. The windows were shaking, so we're doing something right.
Wow.
Wow.
I actually saw a helicopter flying over earlier, and it was loud as hell. And then I saw a biplane flying over, and I couldn't hear a damn thing. And I was like, well, that sounds weird.
Yeah, okay. I think that, I mean, it comes down to like the force the force is projected downward from the blade for the helicopters, right? That's got to be part of it, rather than the biplane.
Oh, that's actually a really good point.
Right?
I wonder.
I got one other thing for you.
Oh.
Aliens. The Pentagon has released footage of crafts that are unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Oh my God. Aliens are real? Finally.
Well, unidentified aerial phenomenons are real, and we have 60 Minutes recently had a piece where they talked to a Marine. He was running like 20 years of international operations and then got hired for a specialty district within the Pentagon, looking into aerial abnormalities and investigations. Something it's called ATIP, and we've seen a couple. We've had a couple of Navy pilots attest to going out and finding a craft that was caught on radar. They scrambled. They found the thing. This tic-tac shaped silver vehicle, zipping around in a bunch of directions just above a patch of whitewater, the size of a 747, in an otherwise calm ocean, right? And apparently the zipping around, I mean like making these diagonal patterns, stopping on a dime, not with a trajectory.
Yeah, that's always seems to be the way that when UFOs are described moving, it's always in that like jerky motion. That seems to defy physics.
Personally, I think that it's got something to do with those electromagnetic superconductors, those things where you have like some liquid nitrogen and like a magnet that you put just above it, like a few inches above it, and it like floats in the air. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
You're giving me a yeah, like, oh, Aaron's gone crazy, so I'll
well,
wrap
no,
it.
I was trying to picture it. Because the first
like,
thing that was coming to my mind for some reason was that stupid hoverboard that dealt with magnets. And they were like, yeah, we got hover technology. And it's like, no, you got magnets. We've had those since the 50s. Go away.
Well, no, but it is a similar thing, right? It's essentially a super cooled magnet, right? And what you do is you essentially freeze the ionic field around the magnet. So it creates this sort of insular space where it's simply... It's not that it's not affected by gravity, but it seems to be like, well, not affected by gravity. What can I say? It seems like waves bend around these magnetic fields, which is super cool, and also matches kind of like the videos and accounts that we've seen of these like tic-tac shaped space objects, where they'll like, yeah, it seems like that they don't really seem to be affected by inertia in the same way that you would expect. Seems like they can go underwater and back up without really interacting with the surface. So yeah, I mean, my personal kooky belief is that it's some sort of like self-insular electromagnetic field that's being used, but that's just what I hope.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that it could just be possible that we don't fully understand how gravity and forces and physics work.
I think you cut out there. Say it again.
Oh, I don't think that we understand fully how forces and physics and gravity work. You know what I mean?
You just cut back in. Go ahead and say that again.
Oh, the capture seems fine. That's weird. Oh, it could be voice meter being a douche.
I think it's probably Discord, to be honest with you.
Oh. Just restart the audio engine anyway. Okay. Am I good now?
Yeah, you're totally fine. Go ahead and say that again.
Okay. So I think that it's entirely possible that, we just don't understand how forces and physics work in the universe, because there have been so many times in history where we were like dead certain about how things worked, and then we were like, oh shit, that's not how they work at all. So I know that there are, in science, there are things that are like the theory of relativity, the theory of gravity, and all that stuff. Like, those are things that are proven, and those are things that we base all other assertions on, right? Which, fine, the way that we test things and all that stuff. But the fact I've talked to people that don't even allow for the thought that maybe we're actually still wrong about things. They're like, no, we've tested it, it's 100%. And it's like, no, nothing is always, dude. Like, you can't possibly know that you are 100% right about anything. And whenever somebody tries to tell you that they know something 100%, it's like it eats at me, like, you don't have a red flag. That's exactly what it is. That's an excellent description of it, because you can't possibly 100%. There's no doubt in your mind. The only thing,
anybody that says they're 100% sure on, like, what's going on in obtuse systems, or what's going on like after you die, anybody that says they're 100% on anything like that, they're trying to sell you something, or they're fucking off the deep end.
Yeah, or they're trying to fuck you.
That too, but that they're still trying to sell something, ain't they?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It is a barter system. But yeah, I mean, that's just the way that it is. I mean, okay. We've been looking for aliens for like a long time, right? Either we already know that they're here, and we're just keeping it from the general public, which not very good, but sorry, not very well, I should say, because that's proper English.
Or you're fine.
Or they're out there and they're just so much more advanced that they're just like, yeah, we're not going to like introduce ourselves yet. Do you see them? They elected Donald Trump president. They're not ready. Like, but it's just stuff like that. Like, it's like, do I think after having come out of my Christianity shell slowly over the last 10 years of all that indoctrination, do I think should we talk about the dinosaur thing?
Oh, go for it, dude.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll start with this. I started
this podcast talking about the color of my poo.
That's a good point. Okay, so this is an embarrassing thing for me. But again, it feeds into the indoctrination thing that I was just talking about with Christianity. When I was 24, 25-ish, I was having a conversation with one of my friends. And Aaron already knows this story, so I'm telling it to you guys.
No, I don't know. I'm about to be wowed.
Oh, sure, totally. So we're having a conversation. Yeah, the prestige, the turn. And so I'm having a conversation with one of my friends. He's actually the guy that I'm going to be doing the gameplay with starting now. We're having a conversation. I don't exactly remember how, but it got around to dinosaurs, and just like the Manchurian Candidate, I just like stood up and I said, I don't think dinosaurs were real. And like, as the words left my mouth, my head turned to the side and I just like was like thinking like, why do I think that? Like, it was in my head, and I remember all these moments. He, by the way, was looking at me like I had 12 heads. But I remember thinking like, why do I think that? And then like there were all these moments where I remember that belief like informing on all my decisions.
Somebody told you at some point in your life that dinosaur bones were put there by the devil, and it's a means of testing your faith.
Yeah. And so there were always like things I would like see articles or videos on the internet or something like that where they were like talking about dinosaur bones, and I'm like, fucking conspiracy hoax bullshit there.
I can see right through it.
Yeah. And then just like in this moment where for some reason that thought that I had never questioned, that was in the back of my head for decades, suddenly came out of my mouth, and I heard it out loud, and I went, oh, that doesn't make any sense. And like the indoctrination just started to fall away, and all these other things came out. And
well, Well, that's what it is. Breaking indoctrination. Because I actually, speaking of the Manchurian Candidate, right? Like just this last weekend,
Great
I had
movie.
the first one or the second one.
There's a second one?
The one that you probably know is the second one. The first one is a black and white movie, and the thing that like triggers him is like if you deal a certain order of playing cards in front of him, like once he sees like a royal flush, he's like, I have to go kill someone, and he leaves.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of, the Manchurian Candidate thing, I went to go talk to my my very Catholic mom over the weekend. We had we had dinner, we barbecued, it was a good time, and then we got on to the issue of trans people being alive, right? And
whether or not they are actually alive, or
whether or not they're going against the law of God.
Okay, that discussion. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it was just one of those where the only way I could describe it is like I would start going. I would, and this is a podcast. My partner is trans. That's the full disclosure. But just the whole thing of like,
hang on. I wanted that. Not me, his partner. His partner in real life. I am his co-host.
My girlfriend, not my co-host.
There you go. You said my partner is trans, and I went, not me.
Josh is a woman, everyone.
Thank sure
you.
am.
Have a great night.
Yeah, don't you hear my very high-pitched voice?
Yeah, very feminine.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it just came down to a conversation about like her thing, and the thing that really grinds my gears on it is that like, she's a very Catholic person, but also she's a psychologist. I grew up with a copy of the DSM-4 in my house, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for but like, oh man, it's just a Manchurian Candidate of stupid. She hit every one of the arguments one by one. The DSM-4, or the DSM isn't that important because like the DSM-3 that homosexuality was a disease. Now it says that trans people are. I'm like, it's moving forward.
Very slowly.
Yeah, very slowly. It's a body of material that's based off of scientific consensus, so that it's going to move slowly by its nature. It has to be peer reviewed at every step of the way.
Sure.
But she was just this thing of like, oh no, trans people are just really sad and they're mutilating their genitals. It's like, okay, sure. At one point, I talked to her and she was like, it's the same kind of sad that like a black person who tries to bleach their skin is not happy with themselves. Yeah, exactly. And I was talking to her. I'm like, okay, I'm glad that you brought this up, right? What other factors might be at play? Right? And she couldn't get it through her head. She thought it must all be like a sense of identity thing. Like she couldn't, like, the idea of like of sex being biological but gender being performative and social in nature, totally fucking lost on her. The idea of like, what it maybe, like maybe a black person tries to bleach their skin, maybe they love themselves and they have a good sense of self, but like maybe they want a home loan, right? Just all fucking lost. I mean, talk about a Manchurian Candidate of stupid. I'm sorry, but that's been built up for a while, Yeah. Like, holy shit. The things that we learn when we're figuring this out,
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're all just idiots trying to figure out our own shit.
Yeah. We're all beige shapes running across a beige landscape, occasionally having sex and buying things.
I forget what indoctrination thing I was going to talk about before I talked about the dinosaurs.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, it's gone now. I mean, it's all recorded, so we could technically go back through it, but not right now.
Sure, but if you think about it, let me know. The other thing is, we were talking. Have you ever heard of the Fermi paradox?
I have not.
You mentioned something like it, which I think that you intuitively got while we were talking about the aliens thing. So the Fermi paradox says, okay, there's 300 billion stars in the universe, as far as we can tell, right? The universe is 100,000 light years across.
Well, the observable universe.
The observable universe, and also, yeah, I'm not here to name the number of stars in the sky. I'm just quoting what I've read, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also the thing that I hate about that particular thing, the observable universe thing, is that it is also based on the assertion that our ability to observe things is complete, you know?
Sure. There's definitely parts of the light spectrum that we haven't even figured out how to map onto onto any kind of like camera yet.
I was just going to say that. We haven't even figured out how to make a camera that can take a picture as good as your eye can see it.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. And I mean, that's
which is frustrating because if do you follow me on Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay, I posted a picture last night when I was sitting in my truck looking out, and there was like this beautiful sunset, and
saw that,
the sunrise, and you can see the crescent moon in the top right. And I was like sitting there, I was like, this ain't that bad. But like the picture that I took didn't possibly do the justice to the scene, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
I got a whole bunch of megapixels on this camera too. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think especially when you want to get like, you know, I went to Brooks Institute of Photography, so this is my Manchurian candidate of stupid happening now.
Here we go.
It comes down to the kind of lens you're using. If you want to take photos of things that are, I mean, like, you know, looking at a building and also wanting to get the sky in there, like the focal length of the lens matters a lot. You want a longer lens. And the cameras that we have on our phones aren't built for that. They're built to be flat, you know.
That makes sense.
Buy a lens
for my phone.
Yeah, you can. There's attachments people have made that you literally like stick on a miniature lens and it does the job.
I'm good. If I want to do that, I'll just buy like a really nice camera.
Yeah, that's fair.
But then again, I'm not that into photography. If I'm going to buy a nice camera, it's going to be for the stream.
Yeah, you could do it for the stream, or, you know, like, it's at this point, buying a nice camera, it's not an artistic thing anymore. It's like you buy a nice camera in order to get a return on investment with some other thing that you can use it with, you know?
Maybe.
I don't know about like most of the time when people are getting paid for just running around taking pictures, right? That's for weddings, right? What you'd want to, like, outside of like a wedding or some rich person's kid's birthday, you know, you'd want to get a good camera, but also like spend $600 on a drone. You know, and then you add those two things together and it's greater than the sum of its parts. Bam, you can do real estate drone photography and get a return on investment. But the camera itself is no longer the only piece of equipment that you need, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, the other thing, the Fermi paradox, right?
Yes.
So there's an estimated 300 billion stars in our universe, right? Provided that we're correct in our assumptions that our star gave us, you know, and the heat that it gave us helped with the development of life. Well, it's only a matter of, it's just a numbers game at that point that other life has to exist somewhere, right? We're talking about out of 300 billion chances. So the question becomes, why is it so quiet in the universe, right? Why can't we interpret any radio data, any satellite data, anything? Like, why is nobody else sending out signals, right? And
well, I would assert that they if they're behind us, then it's possible that they just don't send out signals, and if they're in front of us, it's possible that they communicate on a different wavelength.
Yeah, I'm with you.
One
The
that
thing to
is
remember,
one that is
yeah.
imperceptible. I mean, hell, we could be going out and there are whole creatures that are just imperceptible to us because our light or our eyes can't see that spectrum.
Or maybe it's, if you think about it, it could be a fourth dimensional being that just doesn't interact with our 3D plane. Yeah.
I mean, there's that. I mean, that's the whole thing that sci-fi has been talking about for fucking years, and yet everybody seems to think that, yep, they're going to be little gray dudes, and they're going to come down and stuff things in our butts. It's like, what is wrong with you? I understand that your brain is trying to make sense of when your uncle raped you when you were younger, but Jesus Christ, dude, aliens, really?
Well, there is like the
I
seminal.
apologize to anybody that actually happened to. That it was very uncalled for me. It just seems like that's probably a more rational explanation, that there was some sort of sexual abuse in someone's history and their mind came up with
that's a common thing.
Yeah.
That's a common thing. And look, I'm going to say this now. I got molested by a babysitter as a kid. Hey, yo. I'm not taking offense, right? That's people's minds deal with trauma in whatever way they can, you know?
Sure.
Like my brother actually was recently diagnosed with Capgras syndrome, which is it's in the same tree as schizophrenia, but not really. He thinks that there's some evil outside force that's kidnapping and replacing his loved ones with copies, right? And it's just, when you have a brain that's broken, it's not necessarily a moral failing. It's just your brain tries to make sense of the information it can get, you know?
Sure. What the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind believes.
Right. Well, and especially with a disillusioned or a delusional brain, right? The eyes see and the ears hear, and the brain thinks, how is this relevant to me? and it is. It's a whole thing.
The brain is a stereotypical millennial.
Yeah,
how does this matter to me? I think that's a you problem.
We need to pass the same $20 around over and over again. But one of my best friends of 15 years now. We were roommates for a while. We were friends in high school. Like, I saw him go through a whole dissociative, like, fucking 5-year thing. And people come back from it. It's not the end of the world. But that said, the reason why people think little gray men and sexual abuse, right, is because that was, like, one of the most famous and, like, and overtold stories from, like, the 50s. Was, like, an interracial couple, and they both had, like, similar I should look this up, actually, but they had two separate independent accounts. They say they were brought into separate rooms, right? Let's see. Barney and Betty Hill, that's who they are. I'm going to send this link over right now, just in case you want to look at it. But so basically, these two people were driving in a Cadillac at night, according to their testimony. Their Cadillac stops, they pull over, some craft lands down, they get what can only be described as a barrage of psychic energy leading to a sense of terror and paralyzing fear. And where they claim, Barney claims that there was, like, this whole, like, semen extraction process, and, like, they kind of treated them like how we would treat, like, animals that we find in a wildlife preserve. Whereas, like, you take some samples from them, you check their teeth. Apparently, Betty said that the aliens were very excited because they were checking out Barney, and then they came back to her in her room. This team of them, and there was like one or two that was like waiting with her, but the active like research team like came in excitedly and started trying to pull her teeth, right? And they were confused, and apparently it was because like Barney had like dentures that could be taken out. There's all kinds of fun details like that. But yeah, I mean, that's Barney and Betty Hill is like the first worldwide published alien abduction story. I'm doing air quotes. It's cool shit, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is it possible? Sure. Unfortunately, there's just no solid evidence, so nobody believes it, which means that we always have to be skeptical about it until there's solid evidence. And the people that act like the tangential evidence that we have is like solid, it's not, no. Right? It's like, oh, I took a blurry photograph of Bigfoot, that means he exists. Like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a difference for sure.
Do I think that Bigfoot exists? He might. Who knows? Right? We can't be certain about anything until we're dead certain about it. But even then, it's
some
like
kind of sapient ape, sure. Yeah, why not?
But even then, like, okay, so I'm going to use Stargate as an example, right?
Okay.
So Stargate, when did that show start? It was in like the 90s, like the mid 90s, right? So at that point in technology and stuff like that, we had no idea what was going on and all that crap. And now in the Stargate universe, we find out that there's aliens and all these other things are going on, and our view of the universe immediately shifts, right? Because now we have to make room for the fact that aliens are in fact real. They don't go public with the information. If you guys haven't seen Stargate, do please go watch Stargate. It is an amazing show. Atlantis is okay, but Stargate SG-1 is fantastic. For the first 8 seasons, there's a lot of addendums, but it's a good show. So throughout the series, they meet increasingly advanced alien races, which dwarfs the knowledge of previous alien races, which is interesting because even more advanced societies than ours, even more advanced peoples than ours, can be wrong about their assertions in how the universe works. Like, one group of people used kind of like nature, like their ability to harmonize with nature, and it created something that was like magic, but it was technology. And so they found a way to use it like that. And then a different culture found a different way to do it. And then a different culture found a different way to do it. And each one of them seemed to be a different kind of magic to humans because of how much more advanced it was. But they were all in like different directions. So to each other, even, they seemed like they were wielding magic. Though they knew it was technology, they didn't understand how it worked, which was interesting because when, as the series progresses and they fight more and they find the technology of the other races, their technology gets significantly greater because now they've gained a greater understanding of the universe through the technological advancements of a competing alien race, which is fascinating. And then at the top of it all are the ancients, the ones who built the Stargates, right? Those motherfuckers were so advanced that they actually, through sheer willpower, figured out how to, or sorry, not willpower, brain power. They basically, unfortunately, they use the whole, if people only use 10% of their brain fallacy. They use that as for those of you that don't know, that's not true. You use your whole brain. It was, I think somebody at one point in a paper asserted that at any one given moment, you might activate 10% of your brain. That doesn't mean that you're only using 10% of your brain. It means
think of it this way. If you were to act, because the way that the way that a thought works, right? THOUGHT, is it's literally an electrical charge that runs along a synapse, right? And a synapse is an organic pathway within the brain. So imagine using 100%. If every synapse in your brain was charged with electrical energy, do you know what would happen?
Probably die.
You'd cook your brain.
Yeah.
You would cook your brain.
But so that's the whole assertion with that. And so basically what they state in the show is, if that is true, then the ability to activate 100% of your brain and not cook it is part of evolution. And the further we get in our evolution, the smarter we will get, the more able we are to utilize 100% of our brain at the same time. But yeah, 100% of your brain is useful. There's no part of your brain that is just dormant, right? It's just that different parts of your brain get activated at different parts when you're doing different things. Like your hippocampus, frontal lobe,
Yep.
that's memory, isn't it? Memory and sight.
Don't make me do this off the top of my head. The occipital lobe.
Yeah, that's the sight one.
I think. Here I go Googling brain anatomy.
I don't know. Either way, so he'll Google that and I'll say the memory part of your brain lights up when you're accessing a memory. It does not, however, light up when you're not accessing a memory. So there you go. And that already disproves the whole 10% thing. That one example already disproves it. So this race basically evolved to the point where they could activate simultaneously their entire brain, and it allowed them to ascend to a higher plane of existence, indicating that despite all of the technological advancements that all of these alien races had and how they viewed the universe and everything that they knew was not true in the grand scheme of things, because there was an entire plane of existence that they couldn't even interact with. So there's always something more. There's always a bigger fish. There's always new information. And real scientists know this. That's why there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as 100%. They're always pursuing the next answer.
By the way, the occipital lobe is for interpreting sight and facial recognition, that kind of stuff. The cerebellum, which just beneath it, is for memory, typically.
There you go. What's the hippocampus for?
The hippocampus. Pull up another one.
I'm no good at Google.
Parietal, occipital. Hippocampus, I think, is part of brainstem stuff.
Good old brainstem stuff. But yeah, so I mean, just the simple fact that anybody could even try to say that they know how things work. It's like we're eventually going to get to the point where gravity either doesn't work on us, we've figured out a way to eliminate it, or we just understand that it doesn't work the way that we think that it does.
Yeah, I'm for option 3, and the cerebellum is heartbeat, or a lot of non-cognitive functions, just like keeping the lights on in the body.
Okay.
I'm not looking at like a wiki or anything. This is just me pulling from like. I used to study this stuff, and now I'm just looking at like cross-sectional charts and being like, the hippocampus, that's far in and protected by a lot of meat. That's probably heartbeat or breathing.
Yeah, very important stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was telling a friend of mine this just earlier today. If you go through like the middle of the forehead and make a horizontal line to the back of your head, there's enough there for you to probably continue to live. Like, most of the stuff is, yeah.
How wild would it be if you had to think about your heart beating? If you had to actively beat your own heart, how wild would that be?
You've just given anxiety to everyone who listened this far in. One thing that I want to say about the Betty and Barney Hill incident before I kind of put it down. So some of the things that I think are cool about the incident and why I think that there's still like a reason to raise an eyebrow. Betty was the one who was allowed to kind of see more things and kind of got to like wait in a waiting room type setting, according to her recollection. And she says that she was shown some kind of strange 3D map, which was like a star map, right? And she ended up drawing the basic shape of this star map. And at the time, it was dismissed as like, well, this, I mean, it looks like a star map, but it doesn't look like anything we know. Well, it took until about 1980? Remember that these abductions happened in the early 60s. So, 10 to 20 years later, we discovered the stars that were indicated by her drawings, which is pretty damn cool.
It is pretty cool. It's also crazy to think about.
Hey, I want to believe.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, in a world, in a life, in an existence, I mean, we only exist for so long, and just in an existence like this, think about this. If this is all there is, like politics and go to work and all that crap, right? This shit's been going on for a long time, right? We've been repeating history constantly for like the last thousands of years. And
we're only about 10,000 years old.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, if this is all existence is, like, there's no other life, it's just us, magic isn't real kind of thing, if this is all that the fucking world is, that would suck. Like, if there were no fantastical things, if we were correct about all our assertions about physics and gravity and things like that, if we're correct about everything already, I'm immediately disappointed with the universe. You know what I mean? Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Whole universe. This is all that it really produced. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
I guess the way. Here's what I'm going to say. If this is it, then we get to be the only means by which the universe consciously observes itself. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. But at the same time,
at
the same time, that argument is kind of like, oh, I'm the only one here. And then, like, a voice in my head just goes, yeah, but that means that you're special. And I'm like, all right, thanks, Aaron. Like,
oh, I mean, if that makes you feel special, then good. I mean,
well, I mean, it's just, like, I mean, that's basically what you're saying is, like, if we're the only ones here, then that makes us special, right?
That makes us the only thing that we know of that looks into the sky and dreams about what might be, and tries to measure the universe as it is.
I guess that's a good that is cool, but at the same time, I would be very disappointed if this. Shit. Yeah, exactly. I would be very disappointed if this was it.
No, and frankly,
mostly because I don't want to be an astronaut, but I desperately want casual space travel.
Well, that's just around the corner. It's just a matter of us being able to do it. Once we get a space elevator.
Because if it wasn't for fucking religion, we wouldn't have had the goddamn Dark Ages, and we'd be taking interstellar fucking vacations right now.
I hear you, man. Man, the religion one is going to be a next episode thing, because that's one, you already know my mom's Catholic and I'm an atheist. So how could I ever put up an argument for religion? Well,
my parents are Christian, and I am what's the one that means I don't know? Agnostic?
Oh yeah, agnostic.
Yeah, because I don't know. Who can know?
Who could? And frankly, the only reason that I call myself atheist is that trying to answer that question doesn't ultimately yield meaning, right? If you can decide one or the other, I just decide not to think about it and live my life in accordance with my ethics. Like you don't need a sky dad to tell you like, hey, the golden rule, you should probably do that.
Well, some people do. And that's the part where organized religion actually benefits people is, if you're lost, if you don't know how to guide your own life and stuff like that, you either go into the military or you find religion, right?
Yeah.
And for that,
somewhere.
And for that, if somebody's like sitting here like murdering people or drugging and doing all these other things, just basically like having an awful life and hurting people and stuff like that, and then they find religion and they clean themselves up, that's the good part of religion, right? It gives somebody a sense of direction that they didn't have before. That's the good part.
Sure.
The bad part is when they kill people that don't agree with them.
Yeah, that's definitely.
You don't believe in my Sky Daddy? Well, yeah, then I'm gonna fucking murder you. You can go see your own goddamn Sky Daddy. Or what is it Patton Oswalt called it? Sky Cake and Sky Pie?
Yeah, I mean it's the same shit.
Yeah. Which hey, here's the thing though. We might be wrong. And that's why I call myself agnostic. I just say it's whatever. We'll eventually find out, and who the fuck cares? Yeah. All I try and just do for others and be a good person. That's it. I don't follow any and on Sunday you have to do 14 squats because that's what God wanted you to do.
That's where I start to break up from the idea of written theocracy at all. Like once you start talking about whether or not you can wear blended fabrics, whether or not you can eat pork,
that's all just marketing and bullshit.
A lot of that kind of stuff just seems like people in earnest trying their best to give medical advice before medicine existed. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because eating pork back in the day was probably really bad.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of sanitizers. Or the other one is, the Old Testament Christian thing of guys shouldn't sleep with guys, and it's well, that's probably nothing to do with morality, and probably because Jake and Paul had a weird night, and then Paul a week later his dick turned green and fell off, and so we assume God's mad.
It's probably more about poop than anything else.
And that is a good bookend. Remember, if you drink blue curacao and you eat vegetables, your poop will be a scary bright green, but it will pass.
Also, don't get poop on your dick, because if it's uncircumcised and you don't clean it properly, like back in the day, it'll turn green and fall off.
Holy shit. Okay, we're done with this one.
Well, I mean, that's what it was all about, right? That's what circumcision was about. It was about keeping your dingus clean.
All right, next time we're talking about religion and aliens. We'll catch you then.
Yep, we'll see you next time on Dues Paid.
Dues Paid. Piece of shit.